You know, there is a specific kind of feeling when you have the clairvoyance to foresee something right in the future, very far ahead, and when it finally turns out that you were right all along and you were sure about it, the feeling that you're feeling inside is so amazing. You feel like Nostradamus or something like that, and this is what I felt today. Greetings, ladies and gents, my name is Hiozo, the bearded Balkan blabbermouth, and I am discussing. I am also very happy to report that all the videos, all the stuff that we talked about, all the backlash, all the people who didn't believe me, it all panned out in our favor, and I'm of course talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows. It would seem that apparently a sales copy report has come out on Reddit with several links that lead to basically the statistics of how many copies have been sold. Now I found the original Reddit post and I opened the links and they basically convert and confirm what was said in the screenshot, with 1.2 for Assassin's Creed Shadows in PlayStation, for not even being in the top 10 for Steam. So I'm just going to read what Pirate Nation has posted as a screenshot here. Assassin's Creed Shadows sales are out and it's way worse than you think. This is the Reddit post, this is a screenshot from that post. And we see that 2 months later, we finally have the numbers and they're brutal. PlayStation 5, 1.7 million copies sold since launch, which is 2 months. PC, 367k copies sold on Steam in the first 2 weeks, after which sales plummeted so hard it became difficult for game analytics to gather accurate data. And you can actually see this. This is the first opening weekend, and this is the second opening weekend with a very huge plummet already. And then you see that it just continues to plateau in about the same rate, almost to what we see now, which is barely 4,000 players. We also see the game analytics score that it goes around 591k, which is kind of the medium high score that you can see. They do count with about 75 to 85% accuracy on that thing, so you can kind of calculate that they're somewhat accurate towards the most part, and they're actually being a little bit generous with their results. But with the Pirate Nation post from Reddit, we also have the Xbox, no exact numbers, but it's the worst performing among the 3 platforms, so let's be generous and assume it matches PC, 370k copies sold, which is something that I did with all of my reviews and all my videos about the game's performance. And this user says that brings the total to 2.4 million copies sold across all platforms. To put that into perspective, he gives us a several comparison. Ghosts of Tsushima sold that many copies in just 3 days, and it was a PlayStation exclusive. Even Assassin's Creed 1, a game from 18 years ago, sold 2.5 million copies in its first month. This post was made before the earnings report today, which Ubisoft failed to accomplish and say exactly how many copies they have sold from their own information, and were very elusive about it. However, we do have this official document, which is the Ubisoft full year 2024-25 earning figures, and we see on this graph here that they have basically dropped in nearly everything: in IFRS 15 sales, in net bookings, digital net bookings, PRI net bookings, back catalog net bookings. Everything is down by a margin of between 10, and we are seeing that means that the earnings overall are dropping, which is very for them. Guys, ladies and gents, this was the make or break game, and they actually said it to themselves, and they said it to us. This is the game that either is going to get Ubisoft out of the gutter, or it's going to be basically the end. Now, that last part wasn't spoken by them in such manner, but we all knew what was being meant. If you need further proof what has been going on since the earnings report, you can only see that for today, this is a live, and I'm just going to refresh it so you can reflect on what's going on. This is the live last calculated stocks for Ubisoft. They were on a path before today, and I'm going to show it here. Until yesterday, before the earnings report, they were at 1166, which is a good thing for them compared to what they had, let's say, a month ago, when they actually reached an absolute low of 9.11 euro, and then they started slowly climbing up, and they actually started reclaiming the price a little bit of their stocks. They were at 11.68, which was the highest one on 14th of May, which was yesterday. And then you can see the absolute vertical descent that happened with opening of the markets today. This was after the earnings call, after they failed to divulge proper information allegedly, and after they lost almost all apparently of the investors' trust. This is a reflection of how bad it is at Ubisoft, ladies and gents. This is an abhorrent situation. We already know that they have sold to Tencent, at least partially. They have opened a subsidiary, they have struck a deal, and Tencent now has the IP of their most huge IPs, and they're going to do with them essentially what they want. They will create the next games in these genres by their own merit, and Ubisoft will probably have little to none creative input on them, which might be good for gamers, might be bad for gamers. It remains to be seen. But this, my ladies and gents, is probably the beginning of the true end of Ubisoft. We have seen it for a while now. They have been going downhill for the past year or so, even further than that, and they have not stopped. They have massive losses for 2024. They have massive losses before that, and they're currently having massive losses because of Assassin's Creed Shadows. If you remember, this game is reportedly costing them at least $300+ million. And if you calculate the $2.4 million in sold copies with the cuts from the platforms, if you even be as generous and as to add, let's say, another million copies sold, let's say physically, you will still not get even close to the development budget, not to mention the marketing budget, and not to mention everything else that they'll have to spend to maintain and uphold this game. And again, I'm being very generous here because they have had already sales and reduced prices for Assassin's Creed Shadows. They have had this game on their platform as well for a subscription service. You have a lot of things that are being calculated into these metrics, and if we get a clear picture, it will probably be even worse than that. Ubisoft, ladies and gents, is nearing its end as it is. They don't have any moves. It's highly unlikely that they will do anything sensible to get themselves out of this situation. They're just too huge, too slow, and too into their own messes to be able to get out, at least on their own. Whether or not they be bought out, whether or not they fail for bankruptcy, or whether or not they just announce that they will step back and try to recover any sense of dignity that they have lost during the years, remains to be seen. However, it is for sure that this year might just mark the end of Ubisoft as we know it. The news will continue to come, and we'll see exactly how bad the situation is. I will be covering it, other people will be covering it, and you'll be able to see all of it and see how exactly things are moving along when a game company does not support gamers. Anyways, that's all I have for today. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you did this far, if you enjoyed this, press the like, press the subscribe button, press the join button, become part of the DiscussThing Guild, and it's helped me support myself as a content creator and help support the homeless animals and animals in shelters that we are continuously and constantly helping by feeding, covering vet fees, and donating to small charities locally and internationally. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Hazel, this was DiscussThing, and I will see you guys in the next video. Cheers and stay fresh.